All right, welcome to Work It Wednesday, guys. We are super excited. We have a guest speaker tonight. Tessa is doing a training on a book she read recently, and I'm not going to waste any time. I know she has notes on it, and she's super excited to share with you. So make sure if you are watching the replay on this that you just comment down below and let us know what you took away from the video. So without further ado, Tessa, take it away.
All right. Okay, so I am going to start with the disclaimer that this is not a substitute for reading the book. Okay, I highly recommend reading. And I actually was just saying before we started the recording that I actually am a strictly audiobook girl. So, audiobook is just as good if you're not a reader. But this is not a substitute. I'm just going to go over the summary that he has on his website. It is Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he has a really awesome email newsletter you can subscribe to if you're interested in this kind of topic, for building better habits. You can subscribe to that as well. But let's get into the summary. Okay, so in 3 sentences, the summary of the book: Atomic Habits by James Clear is a comprehensive, practical guide on how to change your habits and get 1% better every day using a framework called the 4 Laws of Behavior Change. Atomic Habits teaches readers a simple set of rules for creating good habits and breaking bad ones. So as he goes along in the book, he gives a lot of really good further explaining each bullet point that I'm going to talk about, and goes into the science of how our brain works as well for interpreting the dopamine that we get from habits and that kind of stuff. And then he gives really good examples. I'm going to try to keep this pretty generic. I might relate some of it to running the Scentsy business, but I'm going to try to keep it as generic as I can so that you can get the most application possible from this. So the 3 key lessons that he teaches are: lesson number 1, small habits make a big difference. It's so easy to overestimate the importance of a defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. I'm super into the Jessie Lee podcast, and one of my favorite quotes from her podcast is, "You overestimate what you can do in a day and underestimate what you can do in a year." And that is so true, which is why the whole first part of the book is talking about making the smallest, tiniest habit, and then how it can impact you overall as you stack them together and create the best kind of routine for yourself. Um, Improving by 1% isn't particularly noticeable, but sometimes it can be far more meaningful, especially in the long run. The difference in a tiny improvement over time is astounding. Here's how the math works out. If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly down to zero. So, what starts as a small win or a minor setback accumulates into something much more. It doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. What matters is whether your habits are putting you on the path towards success. So focus on getting 1% better every day. In this section of the book, he talks about a very specific threshold, because I think a lot of us have heard it takes X amount of times to do something over and over again before it becomes a habit. And that is true, but in certain circumstances, for example, I just moved to an entirely new state. So my routines and habits are all sorts of haywire. And so doing it that many times isn't actually going to be as helpful, just because my life is still pretty chaotic right now from moving. So he talked about a threshold. There's a very specific threshold. And once you cross that threshold, despite how many times you've done it, sometimes it takes more, sometimes it takes less. But once you cross that threshold for yourself in your certain circumstance, that's where the magic happens. He used the example of an ice cube. So an ice cube, right? Water freezes and melts at a very specific temperature. So you can start at the freezing point and go down 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, 1 degree, but the ice cube's not going to melt until it hits that threshold, right? So that's kind of the example he used to talk about, to get your mind thinking about once you cross that threshold. And it looks different for everybody. That's kind of the key point for that. Lesson number 2, forget about setting goals. Now, this is kind of a contradictory thing to what people may have heard because obviously setting goals is very important. But what he talks about and reframes it as focus on your system instead for implementing those goals. So, yes, it's important to set goals. Smart goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, um, within a certain time frame. That's a smart goal. But if you don't have a system to achieve that goal, it doesn't matter how many goals you set, you're not going to achieve it if you don't have a system and or a plan to achieve it. So it says goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. If you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you, the problem is your system. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change. And here is a really key quote that is very popular from this book. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Okay, I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Um, so a system can look, again, a lot of this book is he talks about a lot of wide range of things because it looks different for everybody. The follow-up system that Tab has is not going to work for everybody, right? So you have to be able to customize your system. And I actually stumbled upon this just kind of in my own personal self-development. I realized I got to a point in teaching where I became very frustrated because I was like, why can I not like accomplish this very easy task that other teachers can seem to accomplish? And it was simply just because I didn't have a very good lesson planning system. I was more of a let's see how the week ends and go from there kind of person. But it's because I never developed a system to have like a better plan to get my lesson plans that I had to like turn in every week done. And so that was always an extremely stressful part of my week. And I realized that if I was going to actually like eliminate the stress out of my life and get to where I wanted to be and enjoy the parts of teaching I did want to enjoy, I needed to create a system for getting that task done. So you can probably think of areas in your life where you're like I'll use my mom as an example. My mom literally hates cooking. She hates meal planning. She hates everything that has to do with the kitchen. And I have gone above and beyond in my personal life to create a meal plan system to make cooking not miserable because I watched my mom be miserable my whole life in the kitchen. And that is just not a stress that I wanted to have in my life. So I created an entire system for that. So you can probably find an area where you're struggling and work on creating a system. And it takes time. It takes a lot of trial and error before you find a system that works for you. Okay, lesson 3, build identity-based habits. The key to building lasting habits is focusing on creating a new identity first. Your current behaviors are simply a reflection of your current identity. What you do now is a mirror image of the type of person you believe that you are, either consciously or subconsciously. To change your behavior for good, you need to start believing new things about yourself and you need to build identity based habits. So, changing your beliefs isn't nearly as hard as you may think. There are 2 steps. One, decide the type of person you want to be. And 2, prove it to yourself with small wins. Your identity merges out of your habits. Every action is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. So recently, I have kind of started on like a weight loss journey, and not because I'm trying to become some super fit person, but because I envision myself as a healthy, happy, active person, right? I have a son and I want to be able to play with my son outside without getting tired when he's 20 pounds now, just picking him up and down. I want my back to not hurt from doing that. So that's just why I wanted to create these habits that will make my life easier in the long run to be able to achieve those goals. I have never, ever, ever considered myself an active person. I literally had knee surgery from getting injured in gym class. So that's that's where we started, but here we are now. So proving it to yourself with small wins. So every day I would go on a walk, and that was proving it to myself that yes, I can in fact have an active lifestyle. Now the only disclaimer I want to add, which I was kind of surprised he didn't talk about, um, identity crisis is very real. So this is the part where you need to be careful, tread lightly, because if you start to try to just overhaul your life and change all the things, you're going to get to a point where you're like, who am I? What is happening? What am I doing? So again, go back to lesson one, small habits, 1% every day makes a big difference. I think I remember, Dylan, did you make a post like you posted like I measured out my Cheetos today? Who am I or something?
Yeah.
That was really funny. Anyway, I thought of that because, like if you start to just do this entire overhaul, you're like, who am I? Like, what is happening? And sometimes change happens in your life, whether you want it to or not. And especially in times when you're not ready for it, it can be very hard to digest and it can create a worse problem than it is. So just again, be careful not to do it all at once. Baby steps, 1% here. Okay, so how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. The process of building a habit can be divided into 4 steps. The cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Breaking it down into these fundamental parts can help us understand what a habit is, how it works, and how to improve it. So it is called the habit loop. And I believe he said he got this information. There's another book called The Power of Habit. That's a lot older than James Clear's book. He said that he kind of his goal for this book was to kind of pick up where that person left off and made it more, I don't remember who wrote it, but made it more modern. So the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. The cue triggers the craving, which motivates the response, which provides a reward, which satisfies a craving and ultimately becomes associated with the cue. So, just a very quick, easy example. I take my prenatal vitamins every morning. They're gummies. So I made it really enjoyable to take my vitamins by getting the gummies, right? So I see my vitamins, that's the cue. I get the craving because now that I see them, I'm thinking about, oh, those are going to taste really good. And then so the response is I take them, and then the reward is I get the candy flavor, right? Just a really simple way to break that down. But that becomes the habit loop. So we can transform these 4 steps into a practical framework that we can use to design good habits and eliminate bad ones. So how to create a good habit. The first law of the cue, make it obvious. So let me keep using my vitamins as an example. It's like literally right next to my sink every morning. So I put it, it's not aesthetically cute, but that's where I see it. That's the first place I go every morning is to my kitchen sink. So I see my vitamins there. It's very obvious. Make it attractive. Again, want to take my vitamins because I got the gummies kind. Make it easy, right there, super obvious, a part of my morning routine, and make it satisfying. So, and then the inverse that to break a bad habit. So, if you have a bad habit, like I think most people can relate to doom scrolling, your phone is right there all the time. So, to make it break that bad habit, make your phone invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, make it unsatisfying. So, the opposite of creating the good habit. So he then goes into breaking it down, each one, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying, and gives you practical things you can try, which I always feel like I don't know why, but sometimes in the world of self-help, people say things very vaguely and you're like, what does that even mean? He gives you very concrete examples of what to do. So for making it obvious, he has a habit scorecard on his website that you can download to try to write down basically what you do every day and decide, is this a good habit? Is this a bad habit? Now, for me, that task sounded kind of daunting because as a stay-at-home mom with a baby, none of my days are the same, like ever. Where, my husband who works from home, his day is almost always the same every day because he goes to work, he has his meeting, he goes on lunch at the same time, he does his lunchtime ritual, like everything is the same. Bradley could wake up at 3 a.m., he could wake up at 5 a.m. I never know. So that sounded really daunting to me to just like write down everything I did and decide whether that was a good habit or a bad habit because I didn't necessarily see my ideal routine in this phase of my life that I'm in. So kind of a spin off of that for a recommendation that I personally would give that I found helpful for someone who's in a more chaotic is just start with a morning routine and a nighttime routine because my morning routine pretty much can stay consistent and then what I do during the day very much varies based off what needs to get done. And then my evening routine is pretty much the same. So if you can't go your whole day, like if that just sounds so daunting to you to go your whole day and write down everything you do and decide if it's a good or bad habit, just try to start with an ideal morning routine for yourself and an ideal evening routine with yourself. Align it with your goals. So if your goal is to drink more water, try to fill up your water bottle every morning as part of your routine. Something simple like that. And a lot of these aren't complicated. When you have like a whole book about it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's like a lot. But really, everything can be broken down into a very small, tiny step. Again, his whole thing is 1% better every day. So use implementation intentions. So just stating to yourself, I will fill up my water bottle at 8 a.m. in the kitchen every day, like setting a very specific behavior at a very specific time in a very specific location should help eliminate a lot of decision fatigue. Because what happens when you're trying to design all these habits and create like a good routine for yourself, you get a lot of decision fatigue. Like, I don't know when should I take my vitamins. I don't know when should I drink my water. When should I work out? So instead of doing all that, just decide beforehand. And then once you master that kind of decision making, then it becomes a lot easier later on. Um, so using I will X behavior at X time in X location will help a lot with that. Use habit stacking. I'm just going to keep using my vitamin example. Sorry, this is like the lamest example, but after I take my vitamins, I fill up my water every day. So the habit stack was first, I got used to taking my vitamin every day. Then I would fill up my water to help me get my water goal in for the day. So I stack those two habits. So now those are two things that I do even when I'm like at my parents' for the weekend. So I've changed my environment. I'm still doing those habits because they're so ingrained into my routine. Like I take my vitamins with me, I take my water bottles with me, and I do that same morning routine. Um, so habit stacking, that's kind of where you take a habit you already have and then you just add one to it and to try to help you achieve your goals um, using that method. Then design your environment. This one is so huge and so fun and so easy. I love this one so much. Design your environment. Make the cues of good habits very obvious and visible. So again, I mentioned my vitamins. It's not cute to have them sitting right there on the counter, but it is so easy to just put things in very obvious places and design your environment around it. Another example he used in the book was like for flossing your teeth. If you have your floss in a drawer, you're not going to see the floss and you're probably going to forget about it. If you move the floss somewhere that you can see it, you're more likely to do it. It's very simple to design your environment around your goals and intentions. I know that a lot of us talk about our offices. Our offices are super fun and changing the layout and making things easier to do when you have your space designed around achieving those goals. Okay, then we switch into make it attractive. So those are just make it obvious, make it obvious. Then we make it attractive. So use temptation bundling. Pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. So for example, if you want to go on a walk, you can go on a walk, but let's say you need to pay the bills. So maybe while you're walking, you pay the bills or something like that. This is also a disclaimer that he did not mention, but I feel is important to mention. Just be careful with this one because you can inadvertently make yourself hate something you like to do if you try to associate it with something you hate doing. So, for example, for me, walking is very therapeutic. And if I just tried to work Scentsy while I was walking, I would not be paying attention to the nature around me. And that's like the entire point that I walk. So if I started to, oh, well, I need to work Scentsy, I want to walk, if I combine the two, they're just not aligned to where I would get the same value out of my walk that I want. So you have to be careful not to make yourself hate something on accident because you're trying to associate it with something you do like to do. Try to stick with more like neutral things. Like, I don't really care if maybe I'm doing follow ups while I'm grocery shopping because grocery shopping is just whatever, like I don't have any strong opinion about it. So something like that. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, join a culture where your desired behavior is normal. If you are here, you are already winning at that. Because this culture, it makes it normal that we achieve our goals, right? So finding other people to do what you also want to be doing is very helpful to achieving your goals and then building those habits. Because also what happens is you start to get feedback from other people that's really positive, and then you crave that desire, attention, positivity, and you want to keep going back for more. So you're more likely to accomplish that goal and develop those habits. Create a motivation ritual. So do something you enjoy immediately before doing something difficult. He used the example of petting your dog. So if petting your dog makes you really happy, before you do something you don't like to do, if you pet your dog first, you get that dopamine boost, and then you do the thing you don't necessarily like to do. Your brain will eventually start to like it because you give it that dopamine before you do the task. That takes a while to train your brain to do, but that is an idea that you could try. Okay, then we switch into the third law, make it easy. Reduce the friction, decrease the number of steps between you and your good habits. My husband is a workout person, but he is only a workout person if his weights are sitting right next to his work desk. If they are not next to his work desk, he's not working out, because that is the amount of friction he needs to be able to achieve that task. So if he has his weights right there and his phone right there, he's more likely to choose his weights on a 15-minute break. Whereas if his weights aren't there, he will choose a game on his phone for a 15-minute break. So just reducing the amount of steps that you have to take to go access what you need to do to achieve that task is going to be very helpful in making it easy. Um, Prime the environment and prepare your environment to make future actions easier. This kind of goes along with designing your environment. So just kind of putting, like I said, putting the weights there where you know you're going to see them, where you know you're more likely to reach for the healthy option than the not healthy option. In the book, he talked about how he put apples in the crisper in the fridge, and then he would forget about the apples and they'd all go bad. But when he started putting them on a bowl on the counter, he would eat like 3 apples a day because they were just there and obvious and in his environment to make it easier for him to choose that good habit. Master the decisive moment. I kind of talked about that before. This does take practice, because if your brain is not used to the decision fatigue that is making the better option, because a lot of the time when you have a bad habit, your brain does not have to think about it. Your brain just does it. And not thinking about it is actually what's making you do it more often, because it's difficult to work those brain muscles and think all the time. So the more you work on making those decisions ahead of time, again, meal prepping is a big example. If you meal prep and you know you have that in the fridge, you're more likely to eat that than if you're like, oh my God, I have to cook a healthy meal right now, right? Like you have to be getting good at making these decisions ahead of time to set yourself up for success. And the more you do that, the easier they will be later. Um, Oh, use the 2-minute rule. This one was a good one that I didn't know prior to reading this, but downscale your habit until can be done in 2 minutes or less. So a lot of the times, like for example, if you want to declutter something, or like it's your goal to clean more, if you're like, I'm just going to clean something for 2 minutes, you're more likely to continue going after that 2 minutes. Or if all you can do is that 2 minutes because you're like, man, these dishes, I can't even, just do it for 2 minutes every day until eventually it becomes easier, and then it's not as drowning. And especially you think you can do anything for 2 minutes and it's not that big of a deal. So the more you practice and exercise those brain muscles to do something you don't want to do, the easier it gets. So do something for just 2 minutes at first and work your way up to longer. Automate your habits. Invest in technology and one-time purchases that lock in future behavior. A easy example I can think of is a lot of people use Project Broadcast to do their follow-ups or a lot of their Scentsy business. It kind of automates the process. I'm not trying to tell you to buy anything here. I'm just letting you know that something he suggests is using technology for your advantage. So I know a lot of people got really frustrated when Facebook, you couldn't use the same kind of planning software that you might have been used to before for your VIP groups or what have you. So unfortunately, that's just life. Things change and we all have to adapt and pivot. But you can still find ways to, Facebook still has its own scheduling post thing that you can do. So just kind of using the technology to your advantage. So that's how to make it easy. So now make it satisfying. Um, Use reinforcement. Give yourself an immediate reward when you complete your habit, right? This is a very simple, easy concept. I think everyone knows, that's how they train. You train your dog with a treat, and that's how that works. You can do that with yourself as well. The only thing I will say is be careful that you don't unintentionally create a bad habit here. For example, if you want to go to the gym more, you go to the gym, you work out, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to reward myself. And you go get, a very high calorie Starbucks latte. One, that's going to be a lot of money every time you do that. And two, you just defeated your whole workout with the calories. So maybe that's not the best reward. He said very clearly your reward should align with your goal. Okay, so don't create a bad habit unintentionally by not making your reward and your um, habit, they need to work together, not work against each other. Um, let's see. Use a habit tracker. A lot of us list people like myself. Habit trackers are very appealing. Maybe you're a digital person. People use digital habit trackers, but it says keep track of your habit streak and don't break the chain. So there's something just really, I mean, that's why in school with kids, you use sticker charts. Like it's just very rewarding to see that progress. People like a really easy way is just like take a calendar and just mark off every day you work your business or drink water or work out or whatever kind of habit it is, journal, whatever kind of habit it is you want to do. That's a really easy way. For me personally, I just have my planner, and what I do like the night before is I plan out my day in each box. And this is like not cute. Okay. I'm not like a cute habit tracker person, but I just make a to-do list the night before of what I need to get done. And then as the day goes on, I cross it off. And it's not any specific habit, but that's just my visual representation to myself of achieving tasks and getting closer to my goals. So it doesn't have to be complicated. I only showed you that for the sole fact that it doesn't have to be complicated because you can go on Etsy and buy the cutest habit trackers you've ever seen. And if that's your thing, that's great, but you don't have to be that fancy about it. And then the next one is never miss twice. When you forget to do a habit, make sure you get back on track immediately. Because you don't want to miss out on, like, you can miss a day and it happens, that's life, but getting back on it immediately is going to make sure that you are more likely to stick with that habit going forward, because otherwise you just undo all the work that you just did to try to make that a habit. And then the end of it was how to break a bad habit. So pretty much everything I said, just switch it to the opposite. Make it invisible, reduce exposure, remove the cues of your bad habits from your environment. He used an example of this girl who worked at a horse barn, and all the other girls she worked with, they were smokers, and so she'd go on her smoke break with these friends. But the minute she stopped working at the horse barn, she didn't even have the desire to smoke anymore because her cue for that habit was being in that group of people. Her cue was, I mean, she went back on horses and would have the urge to smoke cigarettes because her brain was associating the horses with the smoking. So breaking, like removing all of that from your visual around you helps break those habits. Reframe your mindset, highlight the benefit of avoiding the bad habit. He talked a lot about delayed gratification. A lot of times, a good habit is a delayed gratification. So it takes a while before you start to see the results. Whereas a bad habit tends to give you immediate gratification. And that's why so many people have so many bad habits. But when you reframe your mindset and highlight the benefits of what you're trying to do, it's easier to not want to do the bad habit. Make it difficult, increase friction. So again, the doom scrolling thing, there's like apps you can put on your phone to like not let you go on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, Instagram from certain time frames. You can get apps to help you do that. You can, go put your phone in the other room while you sleep, that kind of stuff. Um, Use a commitment device. He recommends like signing up for a 5K. If you sign up for a 5K, you paid the money for it, you're more likely to stick to your goal of training for that 5K just because you've given yourself that commitment. Um, get an accountability partner. So when you have an accountability partner, people talk about this, it's like proven, it's like what I talked about the culture and the community. Having that other person there to help you is great in your journey to become a better version of yourself. Only disclaimer I have to that is it can take a while to find a good accountability partner, right? Like you got to vibe with someone and they have to think like you and kind of understand your actual goals. My husband and I do not see eye to eye on the being active thing. He sees it as much more of I have to get this done and it's something I don't like to do. Whereas I'm not going to do any kind of activity if I don't like it. So we just don't have the same mindset about it and we probably never will. And that's okay. But he just won't be a good accountability partner for me for working out. So I need to seek one elsewhere and that's fine. But it's going to take a while to find people that you vibe with who can actually be that accountability person for you. But don't use not having one as an excuse to not achieve your goals. Like, don't just, well, I don't have an accountability partner, so I'm just going to sit around and wait. Like, that's not going to help you either. And then creating a habit contract. That's kind of just one of those things where if you're that kind of person, maybe you write to yourself, I will do this, and if I don't, this is the consequence, and sign it. And back when I was a camp counselor, we used to have the cabin people, the students in our cabin write out the rules, and everyone would agree to it and sign it. And when you're more involved in the process that way, your brain takes it more seriously. So creating a habit contract can be helpful for you to start to implement some good routines. And then my last two things here is just one, it again to emphasize it takes a lot of time and it is a forever process. Again, I mentioned I moved to an entirely new state, an entirely new house. Like I went from 800 square feet to 2,600 square feet. My day-to-day routine is not anywhere near the same. And that's just a life thing that happens. You're gonna move. Um, just things that you don't expect, things that you don't want to happen are going to happen and you'll have to adapt. So this kind of process and creating these habits is a forever thing you have to continue to work on. Um, and it does take years, okay? He said in the book, show me an overnight success and I'll show you the years of hard work. Because most of the time, people don't just become randomly famous overnight. Like they've had to put in a lot of work to get there and consistently put in that work. The other thing too is don't overanalyze it. paralysis analysis is a real thing. So don't just like be like, oh my God, I know I have to change my life, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And then you just sit there and do nothing. Nothing's going to change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So start with something. Just always go back to that 1% better. Don't overanalyze it, and you should be able to um, just start working in a more positive direction. So that is pretty much my whole summary of the book. It is a very good read, and if you're an audiobook person, it was only like 5.5 hours, so it wasn't that long of an audiobook either. Highly recommend.
That was amazing.
That was
Holy cow.
so freaking good, Tessa.
That
Did-
was
That
that was
my
very good.
attention the full time.
Okay, good. I was afraid I got a little too like word vomity, but I tried
No.
to fit as
I
precise as
got I got 2 pages of notes up in here.
okay. Awesome.
I was
Yay.
writing notes and I was like, okay, I have to pick this book up tomorrow. Like,
Yeah, I already own the book.
That's what I was gonna
I
say. Tiffany's already read the book and she still took more notes.
yes.
that's amazing. Can
Sorry,
you,
guys.
Tessa, can you tell us one more time what the book was and the author and stuff? Because I think we had a few
Yeah.
people jump on after, and I just want them to be able to find it.
Yes, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Not to be confused with The Power of Habit. I forget who writes The Power of Habit, but those two books are so go hand in hand because he does use a lot of his research from that book. So they'd probably be a good book to read as well if you're interested in this kind of topic. The Power of Habit goes into a lot more sciencey kind of stuff, but his is much more task based, like giving you actual ideas you can implement. So Atomic Habits by James Clear.
And where
Awesome.
did you get the audio version?
So I have a subscription to audiobooks now, but it's pretty much anywhere. I think iTunes has it or Audible has it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a subscription to audiobooks now. That's what I personally use for my audiobooks.
Okay.
Or Hoopla is like if you can't afford like a subscription service like that, if you go to your library, you can get your library card and then you can get there's an app called Hoopla, which a lot of libraries you can get audiobooks on there for free. And a lot of times I find ones that I read in my book clubs on there for free and it's great. So definitely use your library as a resource if you can.
That was fantastic. I'm just in awe. Like, I will go back and watch this recording because it was so good. Like, there was so many golden nuggets in there where I was like, not only relating it to my Cincy business, but just like life as a whole. Like, you completed so many circles for me that I was like, oh, this is why that worked. Like, one
Yes.
time I ran a half marathon, and the one thing that I did was sign up a few months prior because I knew that would make me do it. I didn't know I was creating a habit. I was just like, okay, well, this sounds like a good idea. I'm going to sign up. And then I started doing the work for it. And
Mhm.
so when you said that, I was like, I didn't even know I was doing this. Like, there's so many things that I tied in, like my vitamins that I take every night
Yeah.
before I go to bed. I didn't even think about that. But like, it's right next to my fridge, and I have to give Brutus his nighttime jerky. And
Yeah.
so I grab the nighttime jerky, I grab my vitamins, I grab my water, and then I go to bed. Like, it just tied
Yeah.
so many things together for me that I'm mind blown right now.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that the come full circle thing because as I was reading it, I also had a lot of those moments where I was like the systems part for me was huge because I just every time I would come to a point of struggle, it would always be because I didn't have a system. And I
Mhm.
was like, oh, like that makes a lot of sense. And so as you go on your journey in life, you'll notice where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are. And so this book will help you bridge a lot of those gaps.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I'm so excited to read this. I'm not even a reader, and now I like want to go lay in bed and read this and Zoom now. So thank you for presenting and sharing that because I am so glad I got to hear about it, and I'm so excited to read it and give you all of my feedback and tell you how great it is because I already know it's going to be. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty like and again, don't if you're not a reader, try the audiobook
oh, I'm
because
definitely doing the audiobook. There's no way I'm actually going to sit down and read, but I'll try the audiobook. I do want to tie this back to just one thing that I do in my business, because I am somebody who uh, get squirrel brain a lot. So I almost just did it as I was talking, but I get really sidetracked on other things that are happening in my life. And one thing that I've really focused on recently, okay, one thing I really focused on recently was creating a habit in my Cincy business. So I'm going to share this later tonight for all the different titles because as you grow in your Cincy business, your customer database grows, the friends that you add on Facebook, all of those things continue to grow. But I do want to share one thing with you all real quick, which is what I use on a daily basis. So this is the, I think Tabitha just found it somewhere, maybe in a director page or something, but we have it for every single different title. And what it is it's just a daily tracker. So instead of you having come up with all these ideas that work for you or that you need to do in a specific day, you can sit there and just go through it one by one. So if you have ever done a power hour with us and you're like, how did Dylan come up with all these ideas? It's because I copied and pasted this. But there's so many ideas on here that help me run my business on a daily basis. So I'm going to keep it really simple here, but I will share this when we share the video recording so that way everybody has it available. And if you're looking for a way to start and create a habit to get more invested in your business, then this is a really good way to start. It just gives you plenty of ideas and it's broken down by daily obtainable quick things in those 5 or 6 minutes that you have available. Or like she said, those 2 minutes. If you want to do something for 2 minutes in your business, move on to something else, come back 2 minutes again. You can do these in very small spurts throughout the day and not feel like at the end of the day that you didn't complete something. So I'll share that when we share the recording.
Yeah, and again too, adaptability, because if there's something on that list that rubs you the wrong way and that's just not how you want to run your business, the whole entire point that we joined Cincy is because we can run a business how we feel like that's like what aligns with us the most. So don't ever feel like you have to do something you don't want to do to be successful. The more authentic you are, the more successful you will be. So adapt, adapt, adapt.
Yeah, so just one more thing I want to add to that, talking about being adaptable and working the business however we feel fit. It's just important to try things, right? Like we have to try them to see if it is something that works for us. And we have to give it a good enough time. We can't just start it tomorrow and be like, nope, it's not good for me on Friday. Like that is the whole point of creating a system and getting something that works for you. And you can't just jump from thing to thing to thing. You have to just give it a good time, see if it works, see if it works for your brain. And that is the beauty of this business is that we have that opportunity to I work my business completely different than what Tessa works her business. And we both will find success because it is what jives for us. It's what we're capable of doing inside our business. We have to make sacrifices and it is about making what's easy and making something that's attractive to make our brains want to do it. And when she was talking about how we're so easily trained, I don't know if anybody in here is an Office fan, but like literally, it made me think of the episode where Jim trains Dwight with a breath mint every time he hits the Windows key on his computer, like breath mint, you want a breath mint? And then at the end, he hits it and doesn't say anything. And Dwight's just got his hand out and he's like, oh my, I needed a mint right now and I don't know why. But like, it makes me think about that. And it's just like with dogs, like we can train our mind to whatever we want to. But if we don't put in the efforts to do that, we won't change anything. We'll be sporadic. We'll continue to have the same bad habits that we have every day in our life because we never allow ourselves to have that good opportunity to grow. And that's what we always say, do scary things. I am in my season of business where I'm literally saying yes to everything. Things that terrify my shoes off of my feet as I'm walking on them. Like, but I'm saying yes to them because I want to elevate my business and I want big things from them. And you'll never do that unless you are putting yourself outside your comfort zones. And by creating new habits that are opening those situations for you, that's the way that's going to happen.
Yeah, they say 6 weeks is a really good start for a trial run. That's a lot of workout programs are 6 weeks, either 6 weeks or 90 days, however long you can tolerate something. The 90 days is obviously better, but 6 weeks is a really good run. And when I tell you, like, okay, I'm one of those people where I'm like, yeah, I drink 64 ounces of water every day, no big deal. When I tell you it took me 5 weeks to figure out how to put 64 ounces of water in my body, like that's like embarrassing. I'm like, oh my God, Tessa, you just drink water. It's not hard. But what I learned was the more I did it and forced myself to do it every day, if I started my day with a cup of coffee, I was not drinking 64 ounces of water because my brain just associated the coffee. Obviously, it's not water, but with drinking. And so I wouldn't drink water. And so, but it took me 5 weeks to learn that that's what was going on in my brain. So you have to really give it a long time.
Yeah. We were just talking about that today, Tiffany and Dylan and I, about systems and how it takes 6 weeks and everything. And it's true. It does.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions or any input? Or is anybody brave enough to put in the chat something that they're willing to add to their daily? And it does not have to be within your Scentsy business. It could literally be, I'm going to put my vitamins on my counter so I can take it daily. Is anybody brave enough to?
I would love to hear these.
Walk for 2 minutes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta start somewhere.
So my next one is I want to try to like get ready every day. I'm one of those really bad, easy to fall into the stay in my pajamas all day at home, especially because Bradley's sick and I don't really have to go anywhere. So I'm just gonna stay in my pajamas all day. But I'm really trying to get out of that and force myself to like get ready every day. That's my next goal.
That was a huge thing for me. So obviously, like when I'm able to work my Scentsy business full days, are days where I would like not put makeup on, not do my hair, and I would not make content near as much because let's face it, if we don't really like the way we look that day, we're not as apt to make that, or the content. So I told myself every day that I was off, that I was working my business, the first thing that I had to do was get ready. And that changed. Like my content went through the roof when I started doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same, like on Mondays, you think about your week and you think about, so many times I do laundry certain days, I give the dogs a bath certain days, I clean the shower certain, whatever it may be that your week looks like. It's just like Dylan was talking about. We don't realize how broke down we actually do have our lives, and how if they're non-negotiables in our daily, we're going to do them. So think about if you have non-negotiables in your business. The things that it doesn't matter, I'm going to talk to 5 people today. Or if it doesn't matter, I'm going to follow up with all of my customers every single week for who has ordered. Think if you really challenged yourself. But we also have to keep growing in our personal lives also. So make sure you're matching each other, because your business can only go so far if we've only challenged our personal life and we have not raised to the occasion as well. So personal life, business, both will keep going up as long as we are putting effort into both. And creating positive habits is going to be a really good way to get there. And I will continue to get my iced coffee after I work out, Tessa. Do not call me out for that.
I'm just saying, if you're already at your weight though that you want to be at, then that's okay. But if you're not, maybe that's just not the best idea.
I know. It was funny though you say that, because that's something that I had worked out with one of my friends. He's a trainer, and I was like, I was gonna give up iced coffee. But I joined the gym so I didn't have to give up iced coffee, and I wanted to be able to stay where I'm at and still be able to drink it. And I was like, so that's stupid And then he's like, no, like, listen, if you work out and then it's your treat, and that's what allows yourself to, it will keep you motivated going to the gym. It's why you join the gym. And the fact that it's also good because the diet I'm on is crazy, but it's also good for my body to have that sugar to feed right after I work out because I'm not putting a lot of things in my body other than like I'm on a carnivore diet right now. So like there's not a lot of things right there for my body to eat. So by drinking that, then it's so yeah. So it was like when
Yeah.
you said that, I was like, hey,
Yeah.
hey.
Hey, I'm just saying, but that if it aligns with your goals, it's okay. But when it doesn't align with your goal, that's not always the greatest thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
and
but and it's
it's
funny that you said that about the non-negotiables because there's so many times that I've had to change my routine. I mean, when you're like with another person, right? And you have to like coexist with a person and you change something about your routine because it matters to the other person. Like my husband, like I was a morning shower through and through. Loved my morning shower. My husband, a complete non-negotiable for him is you will shower before you get into our bed. Like I will not allow non-showered in the bed. And I was just like, oh my God, you're literally asking me to change like who I am as a person. Like I'm a morning shower. What am I supposed to do? But you know what's funny is my nighttime routine is so much more developed than my morning routine. And that's because I have that non-negotiable of I have to shower every night. And so my whole evening routine revolves around that. Whereas in the morning, when it's just me by myself, I don't hold myself very accountable. So my morning routine is a little chaotic.
yeah, it's so simple as that.
That
All
is
right. Anything
crazy.
else that you want to add in, Tiffany?
Oh no, we covered it. Habits have been covered extensively.
I do
She's
want to, so
very
I do. I would love a call to action. And maybe you don't think about it right now, but I would love on the team page sometime by tomorrow night. So we'll give you guys 24 hours. Post in the team page a habit that you're willing to commit to. Could be the smallest thing or something big, but I really want you to challenge yourselves and post on the team page what it is that you are going to create as a daily habit for yourself. And it could be personal life or business, or challenge yourself and do one of each and put it on there.
and you can go to jamesclear.com. Like he has an entire website full of resources to get yourself started, to break down these things so you can actually have like worksheets to like follow through with and break down. Because I think there's even a component to this.
Yeah, he has a workbook that you can
Yeah.
buy that you can, and he also has a like a journal that you can buy to go with it. His story, I didn't even talk about his story, but in the beginning of the book, he talks about his personal story and it is powerful.
It is
So
so
I
powerful.
highly recommend reading that. Don't skip over that part. Read it. It's good.
He knows what he's talking about, folks. Once you hear it, if you're doing Audible or read it with your eyeballs, when it's personal, it blew my mind. And I can't spoil it for you, but just know it kicks you right in the feels.
Mm-hmm.
I'm adding it to my book. I'm
Yeah.
doing, yeah, I'm also,
We should start a book club. I know that we
I
all
was
have 1,000 things going on, but like that's the cutest thing I've ever heard in my life. What if we were all in a book club?
I was just gonna say I'll continue to make posts in the team page that you all can keep ignoring, but I'm gonna just put book club with Tessa. This is what I'm reading. In
That
case
is so actually when you were doing your call, like when you were doing your whole presentation, that was one of the thongs. I don't know where that came in, but that was one of the things that I thought of. I was like, this movie, but I was like, I don't know if Tessa's like a full reader, like she reads all the time, but that would be so good. If reading is your thing 100% and you want to get excited about something, you are 100% welcome to just go live. If live's not your thing, word vomit all over a post. I don't care what you do. You can share all your resources because I get weird. I promise you guys, things get me real excited. And then I call my friends and they have to listen to me rant about that thing that I'm excited about for a straight 2 hours. So do it. Help the rest of us.
I love it. Okay. Anything else, Dylan?
No, I am good.
Right, that's a wrap. Don't forget every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, we do this, and we're going to start. Yes.
I forgot. I did want to add that we have our power hour next Tuesday. So
Yeah.
that's before next one. So next Tuesday is power hour.
Time.
I think 1 p.m., but it is in the event. It's in our events in our group. So
Yes.
go in there, click join, and it will remind you. If you are working during that time, then the one after that will be on a Sunday. So we tried to keep it flexible. But since we don't have another meeting until then, I wanted to remind everyone. So Tuesday, it's power hour. It's fun. We just all work together. And I hope to see you guys there with that too. Sorry, go ahead.
You're okay. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to do that. But invite your teamies. We are going to open up going forward and be able to have options like where Tessa came and spoke tonight. We want more people to come in and, just share how they're working their business, where they're finding success, something they're passionate about, something that they feel that, needs to be shared with others. So this is a platform for all of us to learn together, grow together, and connect together. And we're just really happy that we get to spend an hour with you at least every week. So the bigger this Zoom gets and the bigger we get to influence more people's, the more successful businesses we're going to have. So have a wonderful night. We appreciate you guys, and we will see you next week.
Bye.